probably wasn't. Welcome everybody. I'd just like to start today's meeting by inviting Kai Tohu up for a karakia.
Tīmatanga mō tēnei Kaunihira hau, member o ka Kaunihira hau. Kia ora. Tēnei te rūru e kauhau mai nei kihei. Kihei mai, hiti kihei mā rakaraka te upoko nui o te rūru. He pō, he ao, he tēnā kau. Nō reira, mihi atu kia koutou, tēnā koutou. So the karakia is really just about the fixed stare of the ruru is going about its business. So it sits and it has single purpose of mind, and it's really just to remind people that in certain situations to keep focused on that kaupapa, and it would then therefore benefit everybody.
Thank you, Lynn. So look, it's my pleasure to be chairing this part of our first council meeting, our inaugural council meeting of the Terrainium. I'd like to start by congratulating all of our elected members for being elected. So congratulations, everybody, and particularly a welcome to our 4 new elected members. Welcome to this council. We're looking forward to your contribution to the governance of this organisation. And this is an important day because it's the first day of the Terrainium. So obviously I'm Tim Byron, I'm interim chief executive, and looking forward to working for you and with you over the next few months. So and obviously in the inaugural meeting, the most important part of the day is swearing in all of you, and I'll be presiding over that with the process, being well looked after by Liz and Di, and it's been well scripted. So I look forward to that part, and then obviously the opportunity for us to elect a chair, at which point I will vacate this seat happily. And then the election of a deputy chair. So, and then we'll have a legal briefing in terms of your responsibilities as newly sworn and elected members. So that's the agenda, and then we'll be breaking for lunch. Tomorrow, I'm hoping that siren wasn't suggesting something more serious, but tomorrow we're going to be at the marae, at the Otako Marae, and that's an important part too of this process actually, because that's an opportunity for you, all of you, to be welcomed again, a little bit like a swearing in ceremony, actually welcomed into the marae as part of the welcoming into your new roles for this Terrainium. So, so on that note, again, I congratulate all of you, and also just briefly like to welcome those people in the public gallery, as well as the executive who are sitting here with us, but also those other people who are here today. So welcome everybody. My understanding there are no apologies. Sure. Thanks, Liz. And so we move straight into the declaration of office by councillors. You're currently sitting in alphabetical order. So we will run through this in alphabetical order. So each councillor will come forward when I call your name, and you make your declaration, and then we sign 2 copies of the certificate, one for you to keep. When I say we, it'll be each of you and me, which is at which point you will have been sworn in. Okay. No questions? Okay, so the first councillor to sign the declaration today is Alexa. Alexa Ford.
I'll read this out.
You do.
I, Alexa Forbes, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act. Today, 26th of October.
Congratulations. Jerry Kelleher.
I, Gary Kelleher, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act. Congratulations. Very much.
Michael Laws.
I, Michael Laws, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interest of the Otago region powers, authorities and duties invested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
See? Kevin Malcolm.
I, Kevin Malcolm, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Information and Meetings Act 1987 and any other act.
Good, thank you. Lloyd McCall.
That's good. Yeah,
Very good.
thank you.
I, Lloyd McCall, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skills and judgment execute and perform the best interests of the Otago region, powers, authorities and duties invested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 or any other act.
That one as well. Good copy.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Awesome. Metham.
I, Tim Metham, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Sorry. Thank you. I'll just sign, sir.
It's yours.
Yes, and congratulations on joining the council.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Andrew Noon. Sorry. Probably really efficient to get out here quickly.
Thank you. Cheers.
Whose runs on him?
I, Andrew Noon, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region, the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
I think so. Thank you. My friend. Gretchen Robertson.
I, Gretchen Robertson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Okay. I'll come back for you.
Thank you very much.
Brian Scott. Brian, you've gone before.
That's right, I've done this before. I, Brian Scott, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act. Cool.
Very good signature, Brian. Well, let's see if I can do it again. Welcome back. Thank you. It's a lot of leaders in Scotland. Thank you. Alan Somerville.
Thank you. I, Alan Somerville, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Oh, no. Congratulations. Welcome
Thank you
aboard.
very much.
No. Elliot Weir.
I, Elliot Weir, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Copy there. This is your copy, and welcome. Congratulations. Last but not least, Kate Wilson.
I, Kate Wilson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a member of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. You are now officially sworn in. I said earlier, I look forward to working with you as we start the new triennium. So the next item on the agenda is voting. As you're aware, voting for the chair, and the first decision that you need to make for the triennium is the voting system. So I think you have this in your notes, but there are two systems that we need to vote on. System A, I'll just explain what that is. System A requires that a person is elected or appointed if he or she or they receives the votes of a majority of the members of the local authority or committee present and voting, and has the following characteristics. There is a first round of voting for all candidates. If no candidate is successful in that round, there is a second round of voting from which the candidate with the fewest votes on the first round is excluded. If no candidate is successful in the second round, there is a third, and if necessary, subsequent round of voting from which each time the candidate with the fewest votes in the previous round is excluded. And finally, if any round of voting, if two or more candidates tie for the lowest number of votes, the person excluded from the next round is resolved by lot. So that's called System A. System B is a little simpler. Requires that a person is elected or appointed if he or she or they receives more votes than any other candidate, and has the following characteristics. There is only one round of voting. If two or more candidates tie for the most votes, the tie is resolved by lot. So they are your choices. So the recommendation for council in the council papers that the council, one, resolves a voting option for the election of or appointment of chairperson and deputy chairperson defined by the Local Government Act 2002, either A, by voting system A, or B, by voting system B. Do I read the rest of it? I don't. So that's where we start. So I think we will do this by a raising of hands. Is that okay, Di?
Yep.
So does anyone need any further explanation of the two systems for voting that we're voting on? Sorry, Brian.
Well, the alternative option is somebody moves a motion for either system A or system B.
Okay, that's helpful.
I'm quite happy to move a motion for system B. I think on the assumption, I'm assuming there's two people putting their names forward. It's the simplest system.
Okay, so
I'll move system B.
thank you, Brian. So do we have a seconder for that motion? System B?
I'll see.
Great, thanks, Tim. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I guess if this is the right place to say this, as someone who will be supporting the introduction of STV in all local government and moving away from first past the post, I would actually prefer to see the system A, which looks like a sort of way of doing STV in a slightly different way, to establish that principle that STV is in most cases a superior voting system.
Right, thanks, Alan. Does anyone else want to make a comment? Either the person who moved the motion or the person who seconded wish to speak. Okay, and
I was the mover of the motion. I'll speak to that. I'm happy to withdraw that motion if for the greater good for. It seems to me it's a little bit academic. The system A is a bit more complicated. Is there any advice from the chair? In this regard?
you're not going to get any advice from me. Look, there are two forms of voting. I've just explained them. Everyone seemed happy and no one needed more explanation. So if the motion is lost, then system B will be the system we choose. So I don't think you need to change your motion.
Okay, well, I'll stick with the motion.
Great. So in that case, you didn't want to speak, Tim?
Stick the motion too. It's a simpler system.
Great. In that case, I'm going to put the motion. Everyone knows that we're voting for system B. Those people in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Di, I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this side of the table. 7, 8, 9, 10 people. So I make the count 10-2. Were there any abstentions? No, so I make the count 10-2. Okay, great. So thank you very much. That's very helpful. We now have system B, which, and I'll just explain that again. It requires that a person is elected or appointed if he or she or they receives more votes than any other candidate.
We don't need to, no, so now we need to resolve to do
The following.
we've chosen B, and now we're going to agree on the next 3 pieces of the resolution.
Great, thank you, Liz. So we now have the remainder of the resolution. So number 2 agrees that in the event of a tie between voting, also we've already established that we're system B, so I don't have to describe that. 3 agrees that in the event of a tie under the voting system A, I don't have to discuss that because we have now chosen system B. So the only other part of the resolution that applies is that we agree that in the event of a tie under voting system B, the candidate to be elected or appointed shall be resolved by lot, as described in paragraph 5 of your paper. I need a move for that. Thank you. So
Happy to move.
thanks, Andrew. Moved by Andrew, seconded by Gretchen. Does anyone want to speak to this decision that you're agreeing that if we have a tie, the decision as to who will chair the council will be by lot? Anyone wish to speak to that motion? No? Do the mover or seconder wish to speak? Okay, so in that case, I will put the motion again. Please, a show of hands. Those people in favour of the motion that we will determine a tie by lot, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I think it's 10 again, Di. And against? No one against, so 10 and 2 abstentions, I think. In that case. So we've agreed in that case that if there is a tie, the decision as to the chair of council will be by lot. Okay, we now move on to 2.3 in the agenda, and that's the election of a chairperson. And as chief executive, as interim chief executive, and the chair of this meeting, I would now like to call for nomination. Brian?
Yes, it is my pleasure to nominate Councillor Gretchen Robinson as chair for the RNC.
Thank you. Do I have
I'd like to speak at some appropriate time, I think later in the agenda.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. Seconder for that.
Second.
Right. That's Lloyd seconded. So each nomination has been moved and seconded. Do I have any other nominations?
Chairman, I move Councillor Kevin Malcolm.
Thanks, Andrew. Nominated. Do I have a seconder for that nomination?
Yes, I'll second that.
Seconded by Gary. Okay, so I've had a second nominee moved and seconded. Do I have any further nominations? Okay, so we have two nominations for chair. In that case, we now have the opportunity for each nominee. I'm assuming, by the way, that both nominees are happy to be nominated. Right, thank you. Each nominee will have 10 minutes to speak to their nomination, and each councillor will be able to ask one question of each nominee. Then each mover and seconder will have a right of reply up to 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to time you. I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit strict on this in terms of time. Yes, Michael?
I'd like to suggest an alternative to that. I'm not interested in what the mover or the seconders have to say about the candidates. That's for us to then make our own decisions. And I think it's an extraneous part of this. We're going to be listening to two speeches from two very good candidates for this position, and then we should make our decision. To think that the movers and the seconders should then have 5 minutes basically doing a panegyric of their particular candidate doesn't advance us in any way, and it denies the other, 6 or 7 people around the table the opportunity to similarly cast a viewpoint. So I would suggest that we just have, if I would so move, that we dispense with the need for the mover and the seconder to speak to their nominations, and instead just have the nominees to speak, the questions to be asked, and then the vote to be taken.
Right, thank you, Michael. Let me just check. We're understanding orders, and I'll check with Liz if I'm even allowed to put that to a vote.
The standard is allowed them to have a right of reply, so it would be up to the mover and seconder if they wish to reply.
Am I allowed to allow the council to vote on the issue raised by Michael?
No, because that's in standing orders.
Okay. So look, we're following our standing orders. I've taken my advice. The mover and seconder do have a right of reply. They don't need to take advantage of that opportunity, but unfortunately they are the standing orders. So I'm going to stick with the advice I'm given. Sorry, Michael. So look, we've got 10 minutes for the first nominee to speak, and then the process that each councillor will be able to ask that nominee a question, and then the opportunity. Does the second person then speak, or do we then go to the movement?
Yes, no, we bring up the mover and seconder in 5 minutes.
So before the second nominee speaks. Okay, great. So I'm going to go in order in which people are nominated. So Gretchen, that gives you 10 minutes.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Nō o te pote ahau, ko Gretchen, ko Robertson te whānau, ko Gretchen ahau, kānui te mihi kia koutou. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. To the newly declared Otago Regional Council, greetings. Welcome to first-time ORC councillors McCall, Somerville, Ware and Mepham. It's wonderful to welcome you to the chamber. To those re-elected, your experience and camaraderie are valued. I acknowledge our special guests today, to CE Pim, Byron and staff, whānau and friends, my own son Angus and my mother Shona, and to all attendees, greetings and welcome. Thank you for the honour of speaking to my nomination today. I am Gretchen Robertson. I live at the foot of Whānau Paki, Flagstaff Mountain in Ōtepoti, Dunedin. My ancestors journeyed to Dunedin on early sailing ships from England and Scotland. One of my ancestral grandfathers, William Valby, later nicknamed the father of South Dunedin, arrived in Dunedin in 1849. He was offered a place on the first Legislative Council of New Zealand. He turned that down. Daughter Catherine, a suffragette, and her husband James Fulton, a politician, were a noteworthy local couple. Other direct family have farmed, founded iconic businesses, and been teachers, nurses, church leaders, scientists, sports people, and explorers. John Hollows is my husband. He's away today at his work's annual conference. We have 2 boys, Angus and Blake, aged 9 and 12. I was schooled in Dunedin, spending holidays on family farms. I hold an honours degree in ecology at Otago University. My initial career was as a coastal and freshwater scientist at Wellington and Otago Regional Councils. Following that, I got into community-led catchment work. I coordinated the first large-scale integrated catchment management project in New Zealand, in Otago, in the Taieri catchment. I acknowledge Councillor Wilson's work as a trustee. I've also worked with communities in Golden Bay and Marlborough addressing freshwater and coastal challenges. Key success factors were creating a fair, science-based knowledge foundation and allowing communities the space to derive and drive their own solutions with the support of strong environmental bottom lines. I enjoy community connection and recently voluntarily managed a multi-program children's sports and recreational club with 800 members and 40 staff. I've been an ORC councillor since 2004. During this time, I've been humbled to co-chair all committees with iwi membership. Whanaungatanga is important. We genuinely create connectedness and enduring relationships when we work together. This is some of me. Like the Māori proverb, o whakatauki, kia whakatamuri te haere, whakatamuri te haere te whakamua. Ka mua, ka muri. I walk backwards into the future with my eyes fixed on my past. That's an intro to me, but I'm not here as an individual, but as part of a team. Together, we are the leaders of Otago Regional Council, 12 community elected representatives, 200 staff. Together, we manage environmental, resource and transport planning issues for the 3rd largest region in New Zealand by area. What will this triennium hold for ORC? Over the next 3 years, ORC and our iwi partners will work closely together, finding strength in whanaungatanga as Otago brings together the next generation of plans. Our horizon holds not only the very important regional policy statement and land and water plan, it also charts new coast and air plans. While planning for our future is important to the people of Otago, so too is understanding today's environment and being the custodians our community deserves right now. ORC is embedding better science programs, regional biodiversity understanding and action, investing in community catchment management, lake strategy, and new urban development planning responsibilities. All this while delivering a biosecurity action plan, EnviroSkills coordination, state of environment monitoring and analysis, compliance program, natural hazards and climate work stream, flood protection, emergency management, conducting a regional land transport planning review while running a public transport system in 2 large and very different Otago centres and potentially beyond. The community asked us to do more and we responded. Our kite is very full, and what a huge honour this is. There's only one way we can deliver this important work, by strengthening our relationships. Like the whakatauki, no te rodo, naku te rodo, ka ora te manuhiri, which translates, with your food basket and my food basket, the people will thrive. We have important work underway and have invested in building a strong team of staff to hit the ground running. This is a crucial triennium to deliver. We will commit to building a strong ORC team and trusting in all its players. It starts with our own council. All councillors play a crucial part. Your unique skills will be recognised. You must feel empowered. We therefore need to take time to truly get to know each other, to not make assumptions, to not feel misunderstood, be open to new understanding of others, to be willing to work together, and to have fun. Strength comes from our diversity and respect for each member of the team. How can we succeed together? When strengths and successes are supported in each of us, we will lift the well-being and achievement for everyone. We rise united, we succeed as one. This will take time investment from ourselves into our governance team, but the returns on investment and real results will be exponential. Our relationships need focus, starting first with our own ORC team, then extending beyond. Together, we will also identify key external organisational relationships and nurture these. We will only sustain relationships if we are trustworthy and deliver. We will demonstrate transparency in our objectives, clear strategy and work programs, monitor our success, listen for new and better ways, and share our stories, both the successes and the challenges. Relationships are based on substance. They are about both ORC delivering its own work programs and about ORC empowering and supporting community as we cast our collective fishing nets and achieve far more than casting individual lines. Relationships are not about us as leaders alone. We're peoples. We create a ripple effect to our wider organisation and community. If we recognise that strong people lift others up. E tū tangata, stand up together. This is a new beginning. Thank you for considering me to chair the Otago Regional Council.
Kia ora, Gretchen. Now, the process, as I've explained, each councillor can ask one question, and that will be followed by the mover and seconder if they wish to speak to them to the motion. So I'm going to continue with the, well, actually, each of you can ask one question, so maybe raise your hand and we'll go in that order. Thanks, Brian.
Just a point of clarification. Is that the way it happens, or does the other chair then speak and then we're able to have questions interact?
I did just check that with Liz actually, and I think she said that we go one person at a time.
I think it makes sense. It doesn't specifically say that, but to have one person, everyone gets to ask a question, and then have the next person speak. Everyone gets to ask a question.
I agree with you, Liz.
And yeah,
it makes sense because we've just listened to the nominees' 10-minute speech. So I think we go through questions now. Andrew.
So question for Gretchen. What do you see, if you were elected as chair today, what do you see as the key qualities in your deputy, particularly around their governance experience?
The key qualities in a deputy, and I have been a deputy of this council for 6 years, are to work as a team with the chair. So they actually need to do a really important job of supporting the chair. It is a tough job, under no illusions that it's a tough job. There needs to be support. That deputy also needs to be able to challenge thinking, bring new ideas into the council, have new connections, have different connections to the chair, so that it's a really good relationship of trust, so that you can really trust the deputy as well, and you can challenge each other in a respectful manner. So in terms of the second part of that question, there were kind of two, in terms of governance experience, yes, I think a degree of governance experience is important.
Great. Michael?
Gretchen, I'd like to address the elephant in the room. In the past term, we were required as a council to deal with significant and serious deficits inherited from previous councils. And they included a 48% rate increase one year, and then last year 18%, or this current year 18%. And that also included the deficits of a particular and peculiar lack of science, a non-adherence to the National Policy Statement on Freshwater Management, a lack of progress upon the deemed permits issue, and a conspicuous lack of environmental monitoring and compliance. Now, for the 6 years previous to that term, you were Deputy Chairman of this ORC. What lessons did you learn from that over the last 3 years that you might take into your role as Chair now?
Thank you. There was a lot to that question. I think we need to take probably a broad approach to answering the question, which is that we're in a situation now where we have a different planning world to where we were in then. Previously, when we developed council planning, we did that in a process that I was very proud of, working very closely with community. There was a lot of support for the effects-based approach back then. And things have changed. Things have moved on from then. We've had some national policy statements which have altered the course, and this council has had to adjust. This council has invested heavily in its science programs beyond just freshwater and into coastal, into estuaries and onto the land. So the council has invested strongly in that. You've been very strong yourself. Thank you for promoting that investment as well into the need for more science. So together, I think we've been doing a good job of adjusting and focusing into the way we need to do things going forward. We can look backwards, we can learn from that, and we all need to. Thank you for the question.
Any further questions from any other councillors? Gary.
Yep. Gretchen, thank you for standing. You've been on council for a long time, and that's appreciated and understood. So in standing for this role now, if I look back at the time when you were deputy chair to a quite long-standing chair, and the understanding of how big the role is, you have a young family, you have the duties that would come with the chair role, and it would take you away a lot. I think a criticism of the previous chair at that time was that he was far too involved in outside of Otago, the national element of the role. And so it requires both. But at the time, it didn't seem it could be one or the other. And there was a strong criticism about his lack of involvement amongst the regions, and certainly amongst my region.
Yeah.
Things went, I believe, very wayward at that time. So what would be your style to manage all of those challenges? Do you see yourself as more outside of Otago than inside of Otago, or vice versa? Because it almost, I think, is at a point where can you do both and do both effectively? Sorry, it's a long question.
No, it's a really good question. I appreciate that. That's it's certainly I have experienced being the deputy and understand I'm under no illusions of what the job actually entails. So I've given that a lot of thought. I'm lucky, yes, it's a personal situation thing, but I'm very lucky that I live in a whānau where my husband and I are both actively involved with our family, and we work together as a team. So that working nationally, I actually think there is a spot. This council does need to front up to some things nationally. We need to put our region's voice forward more strongly. We need to be involved in shaping the future of some of the planning rather than just, accepting it. We need to be involved earlier on. So I do think that's important, but it isn't our core focus. Our core focus at the moment is our own region, and we do need to be out there. And when I say we, when I spoke earlier, I do mean we. Yes, the leaders of this council and the chair and the deputy and committee chairs need to have their role, but actually we all do. We need to trust in ourselves. We need to trust each and every member to be out there building up our relationships. So yes, I'm fully committed to putting in a lot of time to regional relationships, and there needs to be more. agree with that. Agree with building up nationally, but yeah, we all need to do this as well together. Thank you, Gary.
Yep, Tim.
Gretchen, first I want to acknowledge the depth of experience you've got in governance for the Otago Regional Council. But I'd also like you, if you could, you mentioned in your speech that you were wanting to empower other council members. How would you go about doing that?
I think that the first step actually to empowering other council members is not for me to outline how you would like to do that. So I feel that ahead of designing committee structures or even ideas like, having each councillor having a profile of subjects they might be interested in leading, we need to spend some time getting to know each other, knowing our strengths, and actually working on that together so that you feel empowered to be the leaders that you want to be. So that's the first step, I think, to doing that. Each and every governor here has a massively important place on this council and in leadership. So yeah, that's the first step I say. Thank you.
Any further questions of the nominee? Alexa.
Thank you. Thank you, Gretchen. I'm pleased to hear about your commitment to work together, and I've witnessed that over the last 3 years, and you growing into that realisation of really working together. So it's really good to see that. So we have to work together as colleagues around the table, as a treaty partner with government and with our communities. So, and I'm hearing that from you. So my question is, how will that look in practice for you? And what specific skills do you bring that will support the collaboration around our strategic direction as a council?
I guess I understand this organisation very well, first of all, so I've got a foundation there. As a scientist, I can be analytical and fact-based, so I can look for evidence for where we would move. I'm also creative. I'm an artist, so I considered going to art school. I bring those two together, and I think that I'm good with strategy. But again, it's not about just me. It's about some of the facilitation skills that I can bring as well. I'm a trained facilitator. I have been sent into some of the most challenging areas in New Zealand in terms of catchment work to get actual results on the ground, and have achieved that. So I am actually, I enjoy working with all types of people. Challenge as well, I think, is a good thing. A degree of conflict can be a good thing to moving forward as well. I'm not daunted by those prospects. I relish the chance to work with people and to bring a team together. So thank you for the question.
Any other questions of the nominee? If not, I will ask the mover and seconder, starting with the seconder. Did you want to speak to the motion?
Oh, yes, I'll do that. No, thank you. Kia ora koutou. I'm very happy to be here supporting Gretchen for chair of the ORC. It's Gretchen's time. Now is Gretchen's time. Gretchen has got the experience. She's got the qualifications. She's got the relationships, and she's got the drive to be a very effective and inclusive leader. Gretchen has a background in ecology and facilitation. Prior to her now, I think it's 21 years as a councillor, is that correct?
Yeah.
2004, I believe, along with Brian. Gretchen, they're the longest serving councillors. During her time, Gretchen has served 2 terms as deputy, as she said, and she's chaired pretty much every committee that's ever been on. She comes to us with first-class honours in ecology, her science background, and as she said, she's a facilitator and a trained commissioner. Gretchen has got an impressive background and an obvious ability to lead. Gretchen values our environments and the people who work and play in them. Gretchen will make the hard calls. Gretchen will front a tough crowd and she will deliver a messages that may not always be what the expectation of the crowd is. But she will deliver the message, and at the end of the day, the message she's delivering is the decision of the council, is the decision of the whole. So she is playing her part as being a team leader. So she will do the tough jobs. There are times when the decisions are for the benefit of Otago as a whole, rather than isolated to individuals, groups, or communities. Gretchen understands that the role is not a popularity contest. She'll do what's right for the decision for a whole. There's a strong relationship with both the urban and rural Otago. And given the opportunity, she will continue to deliver these relationships as OSC goes into a new era. Gretchen has an existing relationship and respect of the CEO and the senior staff of the ORC. Gretchen also has a strong and building relationship with the local iwi. Gretchen will run an inclusive council where everybody's views and skills are valued. To be a truly functional council, we need to put our differences aside and work together so consistent messages are delivered to the management team. By everybody having a role and the confidence that their views are valued, we can be seen as a team, both inside and outside the chambers. Gretchen is the best person for this job. Gretchen can make it happen. We have got exciting times ahead, and working together, we will succeed. We've got a little whakatauki as well. Tuia ronga, tuia raru, tuia roto, tuia waho, korongo te pō, korongo te o, omi e, hui e, te kia. Unite above, unite below, unite within, unite without, listen to the night, listen to the world. Now we come together as one. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. And the mover.
I'll try not to repeat what's been said, but I've known Gretchen since 2004 when we were both first elected to the RFC. Gretchen brings an impressive CV to this potential role of chair, and it's not surprising to me that Gretchen was recently the top polling councillor in Dunedin, and in fact, on a numbers basis for all of Otago. Gretchen, as has been outlined, has 22 years experience in environmental science, resource management and community roles. As has been outlined, she's had significant experience on the ground as a project manager and coordinator on various catchment projects. She is also an experienced hearings commissioner, having heard over 120 consent hearings. And with the evolution of planning and environmental requirements, she has accumulated significant resource management experience, which is important. Gretchen knows better than anybody in this governance team, in my view, the council processes, and has a passion for the environment. And also in my experience, she has, as others have said, a good relationship with mana whenua, and also, I understand, with staff. That is my observation. As it's been outlined, she has been deputy chairperson for 2 terms and a stand-in chair for a period when the existing chair was unavailable. Finally, on a personal note, I have always found Gretchen to be very considered, honest, and wants the best for Otago. Gretchen has completed her apprenticeship, and in my view, is the best person for the chair role. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so that completes the first nominee. We now move to the second nominee, and that's you, Kevin, and you have 10 minutes. I'll just run.
Morning. Ko kopatai te papata whenua. I tipu a kia o kei kopatai. I raro i te maro o te moho ko mihi waka. I te taha o te aka ko Otakau. Born in Port Chalmers, Mihi Waka was my mountain. Otago Harbour is my water. I now live in Papakaya. An amazing wife, 4 great kids, 8 incredible grandchildren. This is why I'm here. Otago, it's our home, it's our place. There's 2 simple questions. Why am I standing to be your chair? and what does Otago actually need. I'm standing to lead the Otago Regional Council to help our people, the people of Otago, create a strong and sustainable environment, a platform that will provide our community with the resilience to handle life's challenges, and an environment that will deliver a sustainable amount of opportunities to my grandchildren, to your grandchildren, to the future generations to follow. My goodness, it's a challenge, but that is why we're all here. ORC has actually declared, and I quote, "We will protect, we will connect, we will enhance, we will enable." And that the well-being of Otago's communities now and in the future is at the heart of what we will do. It's bold, it's ambitious, but it's a statement that we need to live to. And to nail it, we will nail it, but we need 100% commitment from the people of Otago. So my greatest strength to deliver that for Otago is my connectivity. The ability for me to take individual groups, communities, no matter who, along that path and ensure that we meet our aspirations. It's not my only skill. There is a whole list, and at times, I'm gonna rattle some of them out. So I'm well into land management. I've been organically farming for the last 20 odd years. Started in 1995. So I'm with the land, I'm with soils, I'm with the water. My financial analysis has been proven. I've done a heap of project management. Governance is every committee that you could think of possible in the community I've been with, plus boards, plus organisations. Risk management, I had 15 years of risk management and still do that and believe that there's a huge part of where we're going from now. Policy development, I've always been at the leading edge of policy development. Professional development, I've spent plenty of time training people and lifting their skills to ensure that they can operate and do the job. Change management. My goodness, we've had to have some change management. We need plenty more because, and that is a skill that I bring and will continue to bring as we develop the change that we have. And bridging the gap between the urban and rural divide. I live that in my patch, and I live that here whenever I'm here. But most of all, I'm a team builder, and I make no bones about that. And I've spent my life building teams no matter where I go. Life is not about individuals. Life is about the teams that you can build around you and that you can connect with. So let's go for the record. Where are we actually at now? It's been a tough 3 years. I didn't get in this to have a tough 3 years, but change is often tough. In 3 years, we've actually laid the foundation to ensure that we've got a strong and fit for purpose ORC. And change will often cause angst. And there's been 3 decisions that caused pressure, anxiety, mistrust, and at times confusion. But actually at the bottom of these decisions, the disagreements were not about the substance of the policy of the issue. They were disagreements about the timing, the process, and many of us wanting to take the people of Otago, our people, with us on that journey. It was never the actual issue that we were discussing. Simple, robust debate is absolutely critical for good democracy. It's the backbone of democracy. It should never be avoided, but actually what we need to train, and we all know it, we need to do it and show respect. So that's a big move that we need to go forward on. We've agreed on so much, we've actually achieved so much, but our council has delivered a paradigm shift. I drop a wee letter here, and it's from our biggest fan, the Right Honourable David Parker. It was a letter we got in September of this year saying that we are on track. We've got plenty of more work to do. He congratulates the effort, especially of our staff, especially of our partnership. We are on track. The work is happening. We are doing it. So through all that 3 years, where have I actually been? Well, I've been out the road seeing my communities. Without doubt, I have been everywhere except Tapanui. I've not been in Tapanui. I can guarantee that. I can get on a phone now and I can ring people in Tapanui and I will get support for our teams, for our people whenever they want to go to Tapanui. I'm connected there. Port Liaison Group. Port Otago is the absolute key to Otago. It is absolutely critical, a critical part of our ownership, a critical part of us. On the Port Liaison Committee, we've changed the connection between the port and the council. They now have confidence in us. They work with us. They've given the confidence now to plan ahead to ensure that delivering to Otago a dividend that will make a difference, that will take the burden off our ratepayers as we move through these challenging times. They also have the confidence to ring me for advice. So that's huge. They ring all of our committee for advice. And that's a huge shift. And TIC, they're kicking off the harbour plan. It's underway. This is something that's been on the ball, I think, for 20 years. But Port Otago have kicked that off. We've put money aside for it and we're actually going to do it. So it's happening. But that's being in that 3-year period. Another wee thing, the wallaby eradication. The most expensive wallabies ever shot in New Zealand. I think we've shot 8. But we have got a process now that will eradicate wallabies from Otago, push them back. Well, not where they belong, because that's a big push, but we'll push them back into Canterbury and then they will start containing them in Canterbury and destroying it. But part of that is the work that we have done as a group to get our contractors, our people back onto farms that would not have ORC on them. So we have developed the confidence with those people, and now we're allowed everywhere. If not, we've got strategies to make sure we're back in there. So that's actually happening. The Manuhira Care Exemplar Group. The Honourable David Parker's pet, the Exemplar Group. So there's been a heck of a lot been going on up in the Manuhira Care, but we're back in a governance role on the governance group that are controlling the Manuhira Care Exemplar catchment. Invited back on, not stood for it, not went up there and turned up, invited back on because of the work and the trust that I've gained within that group. So it's a huge spot. The Te Hakapupu Catchment Project, community almost walked away from it. There was a split. There was a huge split. We have made big decisions behind the scenes. Now we have the East Otago Catchment Group back in the umbrella. We have got the East Otago community back in the umbrella. We've got a member of them, and rightfully so, should have been right at the start, back on the board. We've got the community back on the board, and now that project is bubbling away like mad. Our new building. How can we, as a governance team, not be part of our biggest piece of capital expenditure? We are now back in there. We demanded that position. We're back at the table. And as the project goes ahead, we will be right at the table. Governance will be making that decision. Governance will end up with the very best result for our staff, for our community. But we need to be back in there. We're back in there. Co-chair of finance. The efforts of our finance team working together with CFO Nick Donnelly and his team, his tremendous team. We're actually driving financial accountability. We're driving it. We're going to get there. We're going to produce a balanced budget, and we'll continue to drive to ensure that we get reporting clarity.
That's your 10 minutes. Kevin, I'll give you another 30 seconds.
Another 30 seconds. Audit and risk. Look, it's absolutely tremendous. We're spot on. From Waipahi to Waitahuna, Glenorchy to Gamaburn, Dunedin to Dunback, Palmerston to Papakaya. If you want people to support ORC, I've got them there and they will support us. We need teamwork. We need absolute teamwork. We're far more than just water. Water is so critical. The environment is so critical. We're so much more. Transport, regional, urban transport, climate change. Alexa, Alan, it's essential. We need to increase the profile of it. We need to get it going. We need to make a mark. Tim, finance, audit and risk. I'm looking at your skills. looking at all our investments, looking at the ethical investment side of things, making sure that good work carries on. Michael, need your strengths, the processes, the acumen, we need it. Andrew and Kate, you understand Otago, you understand the process being, we need you. There's another bunch. There's Lloyd, there's Brian, there's Elliot, there's Gary.
And that's
Biodiversity, biosecurity, integrated catchment management plans. Let's go and do it. I know it's your passion. We're going to make it happen. If the group makes the right choice today, elects me as chair, my first job is to grab Gretchen. I want her as my deputy. I've made no bones about that. I value your skills immensely, your skills in science and skills in water, balanced with my connectivity to the rest of Otago.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Tom.
First goal. Thank you very much. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. The people, the people, the people. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Any questions of this nominee? Michael?
One of the primary criticisms of a lot of us rural folk, particularly in Dunstan, is the Dunedinisation of the IRC. The fact that all the staff are here, and yet all the work, 70% of the work the IRC does is in Dunstan and the provinces. And that has caused enormous resentment. What processes would you put in place to ensure that there was a devolution of the IRC or lead into the provinces, particularly of staff and policymakers?
Well, we're actually seeing a growth already in staff in the provinces. We've increased the staff in Queenstown. We're increasing our staff. We've increased staff in Wanaka, Alexandra. We've increased staff dramatically in Oamaru. It's been absolutely quite severe. We need to continue that because that's where the work is, and our people, especially the field staff, especially the people writing the policy, need to be seen. That they need to be part of communities to understand the community. So I've got no problem continuing. We need to be real. We actually need to ensure that wherever we are not separate pods. We need to be one entity working together. So I agree. We must get our people out with the people, but we need to really ensure that balance, that we've got the work and that we're seen as one team. We must be out there with the people.
Michael, any other questions of Kevin, Tim?
Kevin, once again, I want to acknowledge your depth of experience on the IRC as well. But everyone's saying to me that this three years is going to be the most difficult. And you've already alluded to the fact that we have to get the full agreement of people of Otago to bring them along. What if we can't? What are your strategies around that?
Look, I won't admit that. We will bring the people of Otago along because I'll bring them along, and I'm sure, and I will have my team with me doing that. Look, there's no plan B. And I say that with confidence because I will bring the people of Otago with me. Look, I'm talking. If you look at my record in North Otago, that whole group is sitting there buzzing, waiting, wanting ORC people there. There's a meeting this morning with all the Kakanui irrigators. Our team is up there now working through trying out new methods, trying out new ways of water allocation, working as hard as they possibly can. We will evolve that right through the province. I've got no problem. I've named some of the wee towns and the places we will bring the people. If we can't bring the people with us, why are we doing it, Tim? So if that's our biggest challenge, we need to take that head on, and that's my role with you, not on my own.
Brian?
A question, yeah. Question to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Have you got any thoughts about the committee structure for the next term and, say, opportunities for mana whenua?
The committee structure should be aligned with our executive team. Simple as that. And I'm not sure exactly how that will align, but transport must have its own. Transport must have its own role, whether it be, and the transport will be urban and regional transport under one umbrella. The rest we need to. We can't have directors being tied up committee after committee after committee. We need them out directing their portfolios and in action. So that will be simple. Mana whenua, I as soon as I heard that Dr. Lynn Carter was coming on board, I pushed like mad to make sure that happened. We need to continue to grow. We need to work harder at Mana Tamata. You know that I pushed to ensure with Edward Ellison and co and Justin Tipper from Meraki to make sure that we had mana whenua representation at all our FMU. So we must work together. We must get them with us and get them to the communities to ensure that we are selling the whole picture. So I've got absolutely no problem at all.
Any other questions? Alexa.
Hi, Kevin, and thank you. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the work you've done as deputy as well. We want to acknowledge that. Where it worries me when we say taking the community with us, I wonder how you would think about managing competing objectives, making hard calls, because we can't always have everybody agreeing. I've never seen a scenario that people all agree on a decision that has to be taken. And I wonder if you sometimes feel that with that position that you're outlining, that you're trying to be all things to all people. How do you manage that?
Yeah, no, look, I manage that exception, and that is about making the tough calls, and that's around our environmental space. We need to get our act together. We need to get our science. We need to resource our science, ensure that we are dealing with facts. We know the trouble we have had already without having the facts sitting there. We have not been able to bring people together. We can't deal with feelings when it comes to making those hard decisions. We need the facts. We can then align the feelings, but the facts are the facts, and we need that. So the work we haven't been doing for many, many years, we need to bring that up to speed. And we're working hard with groups at the moment to ensure we've got greater water testing ability. There are things happening. There are things happening that is just quite superb. But we, in the environmental space, we need facts so we can then bring the people to the spot where they need to meet. Pretty simple. Happy no matter what result, no matter who I have to deal with, to bring them to the facts to ensure that we have our community going forward. But it needs to start by starting with the community. Pretty simple.
Alexa, any other questions? Lloyd?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kim. Yeah, well, you went over time. Thanks very much for putting yourself forward, and it's awesome. You got awesome experience and very much a valued member of the team. My question basically is how can very organised, but how can everybody sitting around the table feel that their views are valued and listened to, and so that everybody has an equal input into the council table?
Well, I'm a listener. I believe in the theory of 1,000 cups of teas. So I'm happy, and I've already started. You'll see with what's arranged through our governance team, the trip we're going to have on the Monarch to sit down and start talking and understanding each other. It's something we have not done. We did not do the whole last triennium. We need to, as a group, sit down and understand how each person ticks and understand what their objectives are, what they want to achieve out of this period. So that's the part of sitting down and listening, whether we do it collectively or individually. When the brown stuff was flying around in the last 3 years, I was connecting with, and everyone said there was an A and a B team. Well, I never knew that. I was connecting with, if you're saying both sides of the boat, I was connecting with both sides of the boat, trying my very best to ensure that I understood both sides. So look, it's about understanding the people, understanding their values, and understanding how we can put all those strings together. Simple equation. We need to listen.
Lloyd, any other questions? No other questions. So in that case, I will ask the seconder if they would like to speak to the motion. That's you, Gary.
Yep, thank you. I'll be brief. I think we're very lucky in a way as Otago to have the most deserving candidates to put their names forward. I mean, the highest polling candidate across us all, and then the one elected unopposed, and lucky enough to not have to go through an election, but then it shows the confidence that his area has in him. When I look at the time in the past versus the time in the past couple of trienniums, and from outside of the tent and then in the tent in the past across that previous 10 years, being involved in catchment groups, looking at the indifference we had with the ORC, and then what it's evolved to the last triennium, even though in the ODT has chosen to really hold us up on a pedestal of grief, I think we had an incredibly strong table, and we all brought together a very mixed group of expertise and skills that was actually for the betterment of Otago, and we are on a good path now. So, of course, in supporting one, it's not that I wouldn't support the other. It's about who is the best to continue bringing us together. There was an A and a B team, and or maybe it was an A and an A team, just both A's were a bit different. And I've been happy to support Kevin in this role now because of the way he connected through that last triennium. He knows an awful lot of people across a very broad spectrum of the region, and he was in his car driving, and he was calling in, visiting, talking amongst us councillors. He did the same, and to me that very much impressed me. We had some quite challenging discussions at times, but we respected each other in the outcome that we arrived at. And so I think Kevin has, not to say that Gretchen hasn't got the communication skills, but I believe Kevin has certainly proven himself with communication skills across the region, across all spectrums of what we do, and earned the respect there. And I'm supporting because I'd like to see that continued. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. And the mover, Andrew.
So, Mr. Chairman, and firstly, just to acknowledge both Kevin and Gretchen putting their names forward for this role. I can speak from experience. It is a challenging role, and there's never a dull moment, and pretty much on a daily basis, you'll need to make some sort of call about something with either it's been raised through the media team or through the CE. But with regards to supporting Kevin, I think he's been a little bit light on his experience and skill set. He is a trustee of Community Trust of Otago. He's also been a former Waitaki District Council councillor, and he has had RMA training. And if I just reflect on the 2 and a bit years that I was chair, Kevin provided a sort of a de facto deputy chair role to a certain degree, no disrespect to Michael on the other side of the table, but he was someone who was there to bounce ideas off, someone who provided some, I suppose, confidence going forward on making some of those day-to-day decisions. So I feel that he has those leadership skills that would augur well for this organisation. And on reflection with his, and Gary's touched on this a little bit, with his connections across the region. I mean, I've been in the room probably more than anyone else around the table, perhaps except for Kate Wilson, Councillor Kate Wilson, when Kevin's been in action, talking to community groups or talking to individuals, whether they've got an issue. And I'm not just talking rural, I'm talking urban as well. And he has got a massive amount of respect across the region. I know that he can walk into whether it's a community hall or sometimes a hotel, when there hadn't been non-alcoholic drinks being undertaken. But he has that ability to connect well across the region. So I just feel this is a tough choice, no doubt about it. Gretchen's got a skill set that differs from Kevin, but I'm putting my support behind Kevin because I think he's the right man for the job, and it's the right time for Kevin.
Thanks, Andrew. That completes the process of the 2 nominees speaking, and having been questioned by council, and also hearing from the movers and seconders. And could I just also acknowledge, as many of you have already done, my gratitude also for the two nominees putting yourselves on the line for this important role. It's quite a big deal, actually. So I'd like to acknowledge both you, Gretchen and Kevin. We now come to voting, and we've agreed on system B. So I'll just repeat that again. Requires that a person is elected or appointed if she receives more votes than any other candidate. There is only one round of voting. If two or more candidates tie for the most votes, the tie is resolved by lot. So I'll show of hands. We're going to vote again by a show of hands. And those people who wish to vote for our first nominee, that's Gretchen, please raise your hand. I count 7, Di. In that case, there's no need to vote. We'll take the vote anyway. Thanks, Liz. Very helpful. Those people who would like to vote for Kevin, please raise your hand. I count 5, Di. No abstentions. On that basis, I would like to announce that the chair has been very happy to vacate the chair, and congratulations, Gretchen.
Can
we just have a pause? Maybe go to the toilet. Well, just a moment, please, Brian. We do have to sign, Gretchen does have to sign a certificate, so we'll just go through that process. And then it'll be up to the new chair to pause the meeting. Yeah. Gretchen, I've got you're going to have to sign this now, sorry. Another declaration, and I think you're going to have to read it as well. So you just have to read as
I, Gretchen Robertson, declare that I will faithfully and impartially and according to the best of my skill and judgment execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region the powers, authorities and duties vested in or imposed upon me as the chairperson of the Otago Regional Council by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002, the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, or any other act. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Put your name on there. Congratulations, Gretchen.
Oh, thank you.
I get to vacation, you get to take the chair. Sorry, but that's your decision, not mine.
Okay. We're having a very quick adjournment because, yeah.
Let's go to the toilet.
Yeah. Not for no reason. Thank you, Kate. chairperson. So we reopen the meeting, and the first part of that will be to call for nominations for the deputy chairperson. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Scott.
It is my pleasure to nominate Councillor Lloyd McCall.
A seconder for that nomination.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Meehan. Do we have any further nominations? Councillor Laws.
I'd like to second, councillor Kevin Malcolm. Oh, sorry, it moves. Councillor Kevin Malcolm.
Sure. Do we have a second for that? Councillor Callagher. Thank you. Any further nominations? No. Okay, there are two nominations today then. The next part will be a call for a motion to vote for the deputy chairperson in accordance with the voting system we previously decided upon. Somebody here to move something along those lines? Councillor Laws.
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded. Councillor Weir. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So that is option, sorry, the right option is B, yeah, sorry. And we will be doing the same system, I understand, as previously. Just go straight to a vote.
Sorry, Madam Chair,
Point of order.
I'm intrigued that the standing orders, which I've had a look at, and I can't say that the mover and the seconder can speak for the chair. They can't speak for the deputy chair. And I don't see that in the standing orders. I've checked the standing order.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
It is ambiguous, I must admit. It says that in this paper, standing orders shall apply. Rather than that, there is no speaking to the mover and seconder. I understood that there would be speaking as mover and seconder as well from reading this. So I think, well, if you're interpreting that standing orders shall apply, and we made a ruling before that standing orders allowed for the mover and the seconder, then I would imagine the same applies. So that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
The seconders the nominees would also have a chance to speak, I guess, but that will take some time. But I think it's important as a council that we have that opportunity at this point. So that's my feeling. I don't know if it's 10 minutes or whether even 10 minutes is required, but I feel that speaking and for the mover and seconder to have a chance is fair. Is there any other comments, the procedural type comments at this point? No, okay. Well, at this point then I assumed that the system would be the same as for the chair, myself, and let's go with that. Right, so the first nominee then, Councillor McCall, you would like to speak to your nomination. You have a chance now. Shall we time it? Okay.
Like you want, Kato, kia kina te Māori o te wai. Ka taia tātou te mahi, mai momo hora tu ingoa. Ko Lloyd tōku ingoa. I'd like to, basically what I said is look out the life force of the water, which is our mentor for the Paumahaka, which I live to. Let's work together as a team and remember your name. Remember your name is really important because remember your name allows you to speak what you actually think and actually say it from the heart. And I've written a speech, but I'm not going to use my speech. At the end of the day, I stand here, I'm honoured to be standing here to be nominated as the deputy chair. I didn't put my name forward to be standing here in this position, but over time and as everything evolved, it come to me that this is the best position for me to be standing in. And the reason for that is because I believe in teams. I'm a team man. And I believe teams have to be worked as a team so everybody is included in the decision making right from the very beginning. I believe that we need to respect the leader, and we need to respect the views of the leader as well, because at the end of the day, every team needs to have a leader, and then behind that leader, every team needs to have a 2IC that they can go to without fear of compromise and just have a yarn about stuff. They need to be able to go to the deputy leader to chat about questions and to look at directions and where to and what for. It has to be, as I say, it has to be like a non-confrontational relationship, a relationship where the two synergies come together. And I believe that with Richard's background, which is really strong in governance, and my governance background is not that weak either, is really strong in governance and science-based. And then you've got myself. I'm the community person. I'm the guy who built the Pomahaka Water Group. I'm the guy who's started up from ground South Otago Water Care Group. I'm the guy who was instigator of the Otago catchment community. I am the water care guy. I'm the guy that works the land and water plan. I'm the guy that gets the people from the ground involved to make the decisions as before the decisions are made. So it's the involvement of people. It's not working. It's not going out and being in the communities and talking to the communities. It's actually having the communities involved in the decision-making process. And that is very important to me. And I think we can achieve that because with this land and water plan, we're in a real special place because we've got the ability to make something that's going to be historical for our area, that's going to promote the environment for our future generations. So my Mokopuna's grandchildren can have the same resources as I have. So and if we can make these environmental standards and we can be aspirational in what we're after, and then if we can get the people in behind to buy into that and create an ownership at the ground level, then we're going to have an awesome plan. We're going to have the best plan in New Zealand. We're going to lead the way. And then all of a sudden we're going to become the council that people look up to. And that's what I really want. That's why I'm here. I want Otago Regional Council. I want people to be proud of the Otago Regional Council. I want a council that within the chambers, we all work together and we all respect each other and we all come together as a team. I want a council where we can go to our senior management team and we're still a team and we're actually giving clear and consistent messages through to our executive leadership team and as well through the CEO executive leadership team. I want the council to be consistent so that the people out in the public know what to expect. We want consistent decisions. We want consistent trends. We want to work for the environment and we want to work together as a whole. I think we can go on, but don't underestimate the ability of pulling people. And look, at the end of the day, we're all here because we're all very good. We've all done good things and everybody's got their roles to play, but we need to make sure that we include everybody. Okay. We don't want to have too many dominant. We don't want to be over dominant. We don't want to be over dominant in any one position. We want everybody to have a role to play. So we've actually got a game plan that covers the whole paddock. Again, to have a game plan that covers the whole paddock, everybody has to be involved. We're all going to have our areas of responsibility and we're all going to work to our strengths. Okay, we're all going to use our strengths so that we pull all our strengths together to get to the end goal, try line. And I think that's where I come into it because I've led the establishment of quite a number of groups. I'm on health trusts and I've done all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, that's for me, I don't know a lot about, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. But what I do know is that if we can come together and get the best out of everybody at the table, then we're going to have the best overall package. So we need the people who understand the buses. We need the people who understand the ports. We need the people who understand farming. We need the people who can talk to the farmers at the farmers level. We need to understand the scientists. We need to understand the budgets. Okay, there's a lot to get our heads around. And I don't profess that I'm going to get up and just know it all at once, but I know that I will dedicate myself to learning all that stuff and I'll get a good overview of the whole council. But the most important thing is we don't want to have them and us. There's no way we can have a chairperson in a role where they feel that they've got by any means insecure in their position. They've got to know that they're the leaders and we've got to support the leader. Any leader has always got their strengths and their weaknesses. It's us to help them with using their strengths to the best of their ability and to help them with their weaknesses to go forward. And so you end up creating a proper team approach. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm here. That's my view, my vision for the Otago Regional Council is to be respected within and without, inside and outside the chamber, and to be able to have a slight change in focus so that all people in the community are involved in the process and feel that their opinions are valued, because that is very, very, very important. So that's pretty much all. I didn't actually have any of that written down, to be honest. But anyway, that's just me. I just think we all need to get onto a common direction, get all together, bygones be bygones, get in, and let's work this and let's build ourselves something that we can be really proud of. Thank you very much.
Okay. Previously, we had questions at this point. I am conscious of time and guests and lunch as well. If we can, do people want to have questions at this point? It is standing orders that we have questions, but is there anyone who would like to ask a question of Lloyd? No, it doesn't look like it. We'll go ahead without questions for this session, which will help us get through it and a bit quicker, which will be good. Thank you very much. The next nominee. Oh, sorry. Did we do that last time? Oh, sorry. Sorry. A lot happening today to take in. Some of it is a blur, so yeah. No. Thank you very much for reminding me, Councillor Wilson. Next, we have then the mover and seconder speaking.
I'll speak briefly. I first met Lloyd in approximately 2007 when he took various ORC councillors on a short tour around Omaha. And I must say, he was as inspirational that day as he is inspirational today. He immediately impressed me as somebody that was out doing positive things for the environment and taking his community with them. Lloyd also impressed me as somebody that was prepared to walk the talk and conversing in the Maori language and culture. Lloyd has had quite a life journey, a dairy farmer, banker, Clutha District Councillor, but always advocating positive things for the environment. Not only has Lloyd achieved success with the Pomahaka, but also with the Otago South River Care Project and the establishment of the Otago catchment community. With the OCC, I have been able to observe firsthand his ability to facilitate, mentor, guide, and work positively with communities. Lloyd is no stranger to the ORC and its processes. For example, the various submission processes, including Plan Change 8, in which he was involved in various detail. For example, also the establishment of various catchment groups. Lloyd has significant mana in Otago as a man out there doing his best for the environment and community. I also believe that Lloyd as deputy will work well with Gretchen as chair. They'll complement with an E, not necessarily with an I, but they'll complement each other. One female, one male, one urban, one rural, one younger, one older, one on the ORC for a while and one new. But importantly, both have proven track records and mana for the environment. Thank you.
Councillor Mipong.
Yes, I'm aware of Lloyd through the work that he's done on the Pomahaka as well. He has demonstrated through his actions how to share a vision, get communal buy-in, and establish that vision and gain performance milestones. He has an ability as a leader to inspire others, influence government funders to provide resources and to get his hands dirty. As Deputy Chair to Gretchen, he will bring his rural and farming experience and connections to the farming community. He also represents the newly elected councillors in a leadership role, 4 out of 12. His ongoing commitment to improving our shared environment, working with communities and building relationships will be an asset to this council and the public we represent. That's
Thank you. At this point, then I'll ask the other nominee to speak if I'd like to. Councillor Malcolm.
Short of 10 minutes. So I just read a piece of paper before that said, I, Kevin Malcolm, declare that I faithfully, impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Otago region. So that doesn't change. This is democracy. I am not the chair. So my part in democracy now is to support the decision of council and to go forward and ensure that is correct. As deputy, I've got a track record in a very short time as deputy of the changes around this table that have happened since I was deputy. So I will bring the team together and I will help Gretchen do that, and I will help Gretchen and sell the ORC back to the Otago community. So that's my brief. So democracy has happened, and I will support the chair and do my absolute best as deputy. Thank you.
So, mover was Councillor Laws.
This is our first test as a new council. Our very first test about whether or not we want to be a team, united, or we don't. We have demonstrated, in fact, with the election of Gretchen and the nomination of Kevin, they are two individuals that we trust as leaders and that they have considerable support around the table. There were only two nominees for chair. One gained 7 votes and one gained 5, which demonstrates that they have the confidence of a considerable number of us. I can't think of any more effective way today of signalling that we are a new team moving ahead than for Kevin Malcolm to be appointed the deputy, to Gretchen as the chair, to bind all 12 of us from the very first instant of this very first meeting. Kevin has demonstrated for the 4 new councillors over the last 3 years an ability to talk to everyone. He used to infuriate me over the last 3 years by his ability to communicate, respect, and talk to all of us on all sides of a dispute. And he would often, and we would often find ourselves in disagreement, Kevin and I, as elected councillors, would know. But at no stage did he ever not talk to me. At no stage did he ever not communicate. At no stage did he ever assume something, and that was a gift, I think, that kept us together when at times we could have flown apart completely. That cement was durable. Can I also say that the role of a deputy, having been at just very fleetingly in a very different environment, is not to anything other than a compliment to the chair. They're a different skill set. And it's pretty clear that the skill set of Gretchen and Kevin would, to me, be the complete leadership team. And when you're in a compliment to a chair, you're not an echo. You have different skills, different ideas sometimes. It's the contest, the discussion, that creates the best outcome. We have a third factor into this, and we've all got to consider that. We have a chief executive. The leadership team is those 3 people. For all of us, it's not just 2, not just 1, but 3. And the way in which those 3 people get on is absolutely critical to the progress of this organisation. For that reason, can I seriously suggest to all councillors that if we want a united council moving forward that reflects the very best of us, then Kevin Malcolm be our deputy. Thank you.
Seconder being councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Yes, those sentiments exactly for me too. We've been, again, if we were a brand new council, there was 12 new councillors sitting around the table. Of course, there has to be a brand new chairman and a brand new deputy chairperson, but we're not that situation. And so while I am very much respectful of Lloyd putting his name forward, and I think he'd be a very effective deputy chair if we were in that scenario, to me, the deputy chair supports the chair and will step into that role if is needed. If for any reason Gretchen was unable to fulfill her role as of today or tomorrow or whenever, we would have a deputy chair able to pick up and continue on. And they won't be a decision maker for us. They'll be a representation of the council. So when I look at the effectiveness roundtable, and of course Lloyd would be well capable of doing that, but I see the experience and skills that Kevin has brought, and again with the, and not wanting to have to talk him up again, but what he brought across that last triennium, as Michael has just said, about connecting to us even when we didn't agree, he has those skills and I think he's earned them, and that is why I am happy to support him to be chair, and I think deputy chair, and it does bring us together as one. A comment also made around the new councillors needing a representative, to me, is not the way forward for us, because we need to be all together. We are only ever here for 3 years, and so the new councillors should not feel as though they are a new faction that needs a representative. We should be all inclusive. Thank you.
There you go. Okay, I think that brings us to the voting part then. It'll be a show of hands again. So do we need a motion? Was it? Sorry,
That's what we did
that's what we
last
did
time, yeah.
before, wasn't it? For the first one, somebody here to move a motion for. Sorry. So we put the first one, then, which is councillor McCall for deputy chair. All those in favour raise their hands. Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Yeah. The next one, then we need to have a vote for all those in favour for councillor Malcolm. Raise your hands. 5. I declare councillor McCall deputy chair of the Otago Regional Council. So he needs to do it. He doesn't need to do it. No. Okay.
Well, it's your first test, guys. Well done.
Congratulations. The next part of the meeting is the councillor's legal briefing. Did you want to do now the photo?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's nice time to.
Can I just say, we've got a meeting. I'm sorry. Let's carry on with the meeting, please. We either take this job seriously, we don't. The media.
Thank you. I just said that we were going to have this councillor's legal briefing. At the end of that, we're on a tight time frame to host guests for lunch, and yeah, it'd be great if we could just move forward. So, Alistair, you've joined us today to help us to understand our responsibilities as new elected members.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and congratulations to all of you on your election or re-election, as the case may be. The prize, however, is having to listen to me talk about the law. There's a paper in the agenda. I'm going to spare you my reading of it. The font is too small for my aging eyes. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the law that impinges on your roles as regional councillors, and hopefully there's a few takeaways there that have some use to you. Maybe wave red flags or ring alarm bells down the track as you progress through the next 3 years. You've just taken or made a declaration of the Local Government Act and served the region. The Local Government Act is really the constitutional charter of this organisation. It sets the framework in which you operate. And in making that declaration, you've undertaken to set aside personal or local interests and act in the interests of the region as a whole. And that takes us to, well, what is your role? What is the role of the Regional Council? Well, the Local Government Act says it's to give effect in Otago for the purpose of local government and perform the other statutory functions which are conferred upon you. Well, what's the purpose of local government? It's twofold. One is kind of procedural. That's decision-making and action by and on behalf of communities in a democratic way. The second is to promote what's called the four well-beings. That's a pretty broad brief to look at social, economic, environmental, cultural well-being of the region and to make decisions and take actions as a council to achieve those. Your role is also defined by other legislation, not just the Local Government Act, but there's a range of statutes that sit alongside it. And you'll know many of them: the Resource Management Act and all the functions, powers and duties under that, the Biosecurity Act for pest management, Land Transport Management Act, which deals with public transport, in particular in this region, buses, Soil Conservation Rivers Control Act, which deals with river management, flood control, and the Civil Defence and Emergency Management Act, which speaks for itself. In carrying out your governance role, there's a range of principles. There's 10 of them. I'm not going to take you through them all, but there's one, and that's the paramount principle, and that's acting in an open, transparent, and accountable manner. And you're required to adopt governance structures and processes which are effective, open, and transparent. This theme of openness, transparency, and effectiveness keeps repeating itself through the Local Government Act. And that is underscored by the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, or better known as LGOIMA. And that statute was also referenced in the declaration which you've all made. So it may seem like going off on a tangent, but I'll talk a little bit about LGOIMA because it kind of permeates all the things you do as councillors and all the things the staff for whom you're ultimately responsible to. There's two key elements to LGOIMA. Firstly, the availability of official information, and secondly, the conduct of your meetings. There are two presumptions. Firstly, that official information is publicly available, and secondly, that meetings will be public. Now, some of these concepts require a little bit of elaboration. Firstly, what is official information? Basically, it's any information held by the council and its possession or control. And that includes information which is created by you or received by you in your capacity as councillors. Secondly, what are meetings? Well, the purpose of LGOIMA meetings are anything at which a decision is made. They're not sort of discussion workshops or briefing workshops, but they are meetings at which decisions are made. There are some exceptions. There are conclusive reasons for withholding information or conducting meetings in private, such as the maintenance of the law, these and national security and so on, things which really don't arise in the ordinary conduct of a regional council's business. But there are other reasons, and the principal ones are probably privacy of individuals, legal professional privilege, commercial sensitivities, and negotiations that the council may be conducting. So those are reasons for withholding information. There are also reasons for holding meetings in a publicly excluded manner. But there's some points to note. Even if there is a reason for withholding information or conducting a meeting in private, you have a discretion whether to do so or not. You don't, because one of those exceptions exists. You don't have to keep the information confidential, or you don't have to have the meeting private. Second thing to note is that in the case of a request for official information, there may be a reason for withholding it, but there could be an overriding public interest in making the information available anyway. Third thing to note is that protecting free and frank communications might be a reason for withholding information when it's requested, but it's not a reason for having meetings in private, because free and frank discussion around the council table is considered to be a matter of public interest and should be in the public domain. But back to the Local Government Act. It makes a distinction, constitutionally, if you like, between governance, your role, and management, which is the role of the chief executive and staff. Your function is to appoint a chief executive, and the chief executive then employs all your other staff, provides advice, implements the decisions that you have made. In your governance role, one of the new tasks will be to adopt a local government statement for the next 3 years. And in discharging your governance role, you need to be mindful of some of the other responsibilities that go with it. Paramount amongst them is responsibilities under other legislation, and the one that really stands out is the Health and Safety at Work Act, because you are regarded as a PCBU, short or long, a person conducting a business or undertaking, and you have all the statutory obligations that go with that for the health and safety of yourselves, your staff, contractors, and members of the public at workplaces. The council itself can have criminal liability, although councillors are in the favourable position of being personally exempt from a breach, unlike company directors. So you get cut a little bit of love there. The governance function really breaks down to two broad areas. One is policy, and that's your plans, your strategies, your bylaws, things of that kind, where you are setting a direction for the region. And the other is fiscal, and that's about where is money coming from and how it's spent. But most of those decisions are required by the Local Government Act and other legislation be reached after a process of consultation. Now, consultation comes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes depending on what piece of legislation actually governs the subject matter that you grasp. But there is one principle that really stands out and which you've got to observe faithfully, and that is to keep an open mind about the subject matter. You put out a proposal, you put out your justification for it, you invite feedback. You've got to be prepared to change your mind, both individually and as councillors. If you feel that your mind is made up and nothing will change it, then maybe you've got to question whether you should be involved in the decision-making process at all. Should you step back? Now, the Local Government Act also requires you to have standing orders, which you've touched on today already, and a code of conduct, and those regulate the conduct of your proceedings and the conduct of members themselves.
But there are other legal controls that you need to be aware of. And I guess that there's one common theme that comes through all these pieces of legislation that regulate council's activities, and that is simply that a member can't make a profit from his or her or their position as a councillor. It's just common sense. Things like bribery, corruption, and getting gifts for voting one way or the other are obviously crimes, and the Crimes Act and Secret Commissions Act and legislation of that nature makes them pretty serious. So likewise, the misuse of official information. You also need to be aware in this context of the council's embarking on some fundraising exercise principally through borrowing, and the Financial Markets Act might apply, and you have obligations collectively and individually again of making full and frank disclosure so that the market is fully aware of the situation, and you can't engage in insider trading or misuse confidential information for your own gain. The one piece of legislation that regulates councillors' conduct that probably you're most likely to interface with is the Local Authority Members Interest Act. And it's a bizarre piece of drafting, but it boils down to simply two fundamental rules. One is relates to contracting with the council. You can't engage, enter into a contract with the council which has an annual value of more than $25,000. And the second is, and this is the most common rule that comes up for discussion and concern with councillors, you can't participate in a council business if you have directly or indirectly a pecuniary interest in the subject matter. Because this is one that might commonly arises, probably useful just to tease out some of the concepts. Well, what is a pecuniary interest? Pecuniary interest is something that affects you in the wallet. That could be a profit, a gain, or it could be a loss. Doesn't matter which. Some people think it's only concerned with gains. No, it's concerned with losses as well. It could, and that might apply whether the benefit is to you personally or the benefit or loss is to a spouse or partner. What does participate mean in this context? Well, basically it boils down to this. You can't engage in a debate, a discussion, conduct of business relating to that subject matter. You've got to excuse yourself, you've got to declare your interest, and you've got to withdraw physically from the process. And it's a very good idea to make sure that that's minuted, so that if there's any question about what the council did or decided, it's there in the council minutes. There are some exceptions, basic things like your remuneration or indemnity insurance that's taken out by the council to protect you from civil liability. Exempt. If you have the same interest as the public at large, then you're not caught by that. But that can raise some interesting questions at times, because there are things like general rates where you obviously have the same interest as the public at large, but targeted rates may affect you in a different way than the public at large. So you've got to be very careful there. Targeted fees and charges. And you can get prior audit office approval for participation, but that's not likely granted and it shouldn't be assumed. Well, there's various ways of being held to account if you do breach these things. Obviously, matters which are criminal offences can result in prosecution, conviction, disqualification from office, and some form of sentence ranging from fines to imprisonment. And I'm sure none of you wish to flirt with those dangers. There is obviously political and public accountability. There can be civil liability for improper gains or for losses which the council has incurred because of your misconduct. council's actions can be subject to judicial review in the High Court. There can be complaints to the Ombudsman or the Auditor General, and there's a range of ministerial interventions which are available. If, however, you are concerned about serious wrongdoing within the council's business, then Protected Disclosure Whistleblowers Act may apply. Those concerns can be raised either in accordance with the council's own internal policy or with what is an appropriate external authority. Just note that ministers and MPs are not appropriate external authorities as a matter of law. Look, I've got to throw in a disclaimer here. There's no way that you can make this particularly riveting or interesting. The second caveat is that
I'm going to ask you back next week.
the second caveat I've got to give you is that this is nothing more than a very brief overview, and the law is much more complicated than we've got time for, or your tolerance would endure. And we can't, in a session like this, look at all possible scenarios or go into matters of depth. If they do arise, you've got to get advice. Obvious courses of advice, of consulting the chief executive, push you in the right direction. There's very good material available from Local Government New Zealand, which goes much more depth, and there's very good material on the Auditor General's website, and to a lesser degree, the Ombudsman's website too, about all these matters. So I commend those to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Mr. Logan?
Well, that's not on the agenda.
Councillor Weir.
I was just hoping to clarify in the pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests, the non-pecuniary interests sort of the section here discusses a bit about the appearance of a conflict, even if there isn't one. Does that apply to the pecuniary interests as well?
No, the pecuniary interest is a much more absolute disqualification.
Yep, thank you. There's quite a lot of detail there, as you've alluded to, that we could go into in more depth at another time or seek further advice on as well. So appreciate that, Mr. Logan. Yeah, happy to move. There's a recommendation there to note this report. Mover, Councillor Wilson, seconded Councillor Forbes. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Logan. The final paper then will be meetings for 2022, and these are the council meeting dates. Obviously, we know that there aren't committees in place at this point, so there are two dates there recommended of 9th of November and 7th of December, so that we can calendar them and get on with decision making as council. Does anyone have any questions on this? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. And it's a question I raised, and it may be one for Amanda or maybe for the executive, not quite sure. The issue of the ability to vote on Zoom or from afar, and we've had an indication that that may change. Have we had an update on that? And the reason I'm raising it is we've got some really important work for councillors to be participating in the FMU work, which will make it almost impossible for them to attend in person. And I just want that clarified before we make those decisions.
So my understanding is you can vote on Zoom online, but there is an issue around the quorum. Amanda, if we have too many people online, we don't meet the requirements for a council quorum or a committee quorum. But as long as we have a quorum, my understanding is the chair can accept votes online.
Oh,
we need to have a physical quorum
in the room
to allow people to vote from Zoom, is my understanding.
My understanding too.
Is that correct?
Amanda?
Yeah. So we need to make sure that that's managed.
Well, if we don't have a quorum, we don't have a meeting. So
I
You're
know-
right,
yeah.
Councillor Wilson. So in advance, we need to be keeping an eye on how many people are planning to be Zooming, and if people are deciding, well, there could be illness or any reason why somebody at the last minute is on Zoom as well, that we're mindful of that as a council, keeping on top of it. So good point.
Sorry, I think that change, which was changed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Amanda, do we have a date for when that changes back?
So it changed on the 16th of October.
So
Yes, yes,
that's
yes.
already occurred.
Yes.
Sorry to clarify that. Yep.
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's exactly the
good.
clarity I need. Thank you very
It's a
much.
good question. Thank
Happy to move
you.
it.
Yep. Councillor Laws.
When do we intend to discuss and move the code of conduct? My understanding was that codes of conduct the code of conduct will apply for us for the next 3 years, was to be moved at the triennium meeting, and then we were to adopt it. At the moment, we don't have a code of conduct, I don't think, unless we adopt one. It's fine, I don't mind not having one, but I'm just pointing that out.
I think Amanda's got a different view on that.
Amanda.
Yeah, so the code of conduct doesn't need to be adopted at the start of each training. Once it's adopted, so you last adopted one in May 2022, that one now stays in force until you propose a new one, and you need a 75% majority to have changes to your existing code of conduct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Another good question. Was that Councillor Malcolm?
Just with the two proposed dates that we're looking at, both clash with what I thought was reasonably important dates in our FMU process. And I suppose that the easy one to change would be the Wednesday the 9th in Cromwell, where we have that FMU meeting. Why could we not have the council meeting on the Thursday? And that would, the councillors that wish to go to and who should be at, can also go to that event, and then plus the next day be at council meeting.
So the 10th of November is the proposition, is it? Instead of,
Correct.
yeah.
It's a wee bit more problematic further down, because we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that week in December. So that's more problematic, but at least we could have right representation both at Central Otago and also at the council meeting.
Yeah, I've just got CE Warren here saying that he's away on the 10th, but he's just double checking that as we speak. Is there anyone else who wants to raise any other issues while he's considering that? Yeah.
That's very regional.
Yeah. Councillor Noon, then Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, I just wondered whether we had an idea in terms of from staff perspective, so maybe a question for the around settling on the committee structures, etc. Because I'd see in the report, obviously, we're planning to do that one or other of those two meetings, either in November or December. But I'm just wondering, practical sense, what would be the preference from a staff perspective, sooner rather than later, or is there another view?
If you'd like to give a view, you're welcome.
Okay.
We'll need to decide, but yeah.
Look, like everything else, the chief executive has a view of the world and likes to give advice. And as you know, all of you are supposed to take that advice. You can ignore it if you like, but the opportunity is there. So I need an opportunity to speak with a newly appointed chair, potentially the deputy chair as well. But and those that committee structure then will be your decision. But presumably there will be a recommendation from the chair to all of you. So. My preference would be sooner rather than later, but it's really up to all of you and them. So on the Thursday the 10th, I've got a regional chief executives meeting in Wellington. It's a bit awkward for me not to be there because we've tabled two papers ourselves, which I'm hoping to speak to in Wellington. One relating to Wilding Pines, forgetting what the other one was, but they're both quite important in their national interest. So I'm just wondering how many people will be at that FMU meeting, given if we were going to change it. I know it's awkward, but because it's our first proper council meeting, I have to say I'd like to be there, not least of all in terms of giving it, support to the chair around the committee structure.
What FMU meeting is it, Councillor Malcolm?
It's Land and Water Plan Cromwell,
Dance. Oh, well, sorry, you said that.
Time is it, Kevin?
7 p.m.
7 till 9.
So could you do both, one at Zoom? Could you Zoom the council by Zoom and be at the Cromwell one?
Or finish the council meeting by a certain time.
You got a
Yeah.
meeting in Cromwell. Or meeting Cromwell.
And I can't
Council
hear
being
this
in
one.
Cromwell.
Right, Councillor Forbes wants to speak on this matter.
Yeah, because I've been struggling with this one. We've got Lake Hawea Land and Water Plan on Monday, the 7th.
That's right.
Tuesday, the 8th, Land and Water Plan in Taris.
Mm.
And Wednesday, the 9th, Land and Water in Cromwell. So to fix those clashes, to make it safe to transport yourself between all of those meetings actually isn't viable. I've kind of worked with this. I've talked to Amanda and Richard and Pim about this. And I really think that probably those that are going to go to the Cromwell one are going to need to Zoom. And for me, I will Zoom those 2 days, and I'll attend Land and Water Taris and Land and Water Cromwell.
Yeah, that'll go for me too.
So we're going to make sure is
All
that
the
there's a
dance.
quorum here for that council meeting, which there is, if the Dunstan councillors take care of those meetings
Mm.
and the others. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to need to make that work, aren't we? So that we've
I think
both
it's more
the
viable
council
than-
meeting and those FMUs are very important. So if we can divvy our resources, but ensure that you're able to get to both, that's crucial. Yeah, I'm not sure whether we need to shift to the 10th to be able to achieve that. It looks like it's a very tight program. Obviously, we know that the FMU consultation process is super tight, and we know the reasons for that. It sounds like there's a solution there, albeit not ideal. We're going to need to work with that, I think. So it's looking like the 9th. Which suits Dr. Byron here as well. But we can put that, if somebody wants to do a motion for the 10th or to change any of these dates, you're welcome to. Councillor McCall.
Yes, is there a real opportunity to have a meeting in Cromwell? Because that would be.
To
Is that a
ensure that we
possibility
have
or
a
not?
fiscal quorum, that would be one option.
Okay, yes, that is an option then. It's a thought. So we stick with the 9th and do some further thinking on how we make this work for a quorum and presence at the FMU. Councillor Wilson.
I explored that suggestion earlier today with Councillor Forbes, but my understanding, can I just some guidance about when we need to advertise and those timeframes of the meeting, because if we don't know that now.
Oh, right.
Liz's got
For
it.
venue, you mean?
Yeah, for venue.
I have advertised in the ODT for the night here.
Uh,
I can advertise, I can re-advertise.
So the question is, have we got time to change that?
You can re-advertise it.
Okay.
Sorry,
No, good question again.
I don't know if I can get it in.
and presuming it's available, so, yeah,
And finding someone hold it and getting it.
in accommodation.
In the end, we're going to have to, I was going to say you and I, but maybe we could get a bit of a
Yeah, steer.
steer here.
Well, yeah, the steer on whether or not people would like to have a council meeting in Cromwell and that they would attend if it was in Cromwell on the 9th. Just raise your hands. It's slightly informal, but happy to be in Cromwell as far as they know at this point.
Quorum that way.
Yeah, and obviously Councillor Lords. Yep, thank you. Okay.
And alternatively, we might also have a quorum in Dunedin, but it looks like if
Yeah.
everyone can go to Cromwell.
It
that
gives
would be
some
preference.
options.
Yep,
So
yep.
yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you. All right, well, does somebody care to move all of those recommended? Oh, sorry, Councillor Forbes, have you finished questions?
Yeah. I've
You're
finished
moving?
it. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm moving that.
Hard to see you behind that screen. Seconded, Councillor Scott, all in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Okay, well, that brings us to the close, almost to the closure. We need to have karakia as well at this point. Oh, I'm not doing well, sorry.
No,
We
you
do
don't
have
do
an
that.
introduction of councillors, and that's very important. Yeah, no, it's very important at this point to do that. and I'm really keen to as well. It's been a big day today, and apologies for skipping over that one. But yeah, now is the chance for you to introduce yourself to the region if you would like to say a few words as a new councillor. And yeah, at this point as well, I also want to thank everyone who has put up their hands for this triennium. It's a really big triennium, and it's a brave thing to do, to put your hand up for local government. So well done, taking time out of your busy lives to give something back to Otago. And you've taken an oath today to act in the best interests of Otago. And I really appreciate that you're here as part of the team. It is a new era. Te tū tangata, we're going to stand up together. We're going to be strong together. And we're going to work as we have taken the oath for the best interests of Otago together. So now's your chance to introduce yourselves. And we might start in the other direction from alphabetical, and perhaps Councillor Wilson, if you want to say anything at all, you're welcome.
I'm sorry, I thought you said it was for new councillors.
Oh, you're being newly elected today, which is you as well. Yep. If you'd like to, I can come back to you, sorry, Councillor Wilson.
No, Pure, I think it's important to say that we're here to work together to get the best for Otago, and I really look forward to doing that. And welcome my patch anytime. Know that I'm going to welcome Councillor Weir up there to be studying his geckos at some stage, which is really exciting. And I want to say that it's great to see a new diversity on the council, but there's still more work that we need to be able to get on that count of the democracy. Yeah. Going to work with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weir.
Kia ora tātou. Anyone who doesn't know, I'm a master's student in ecology, as Councillor Wilson alluded to. I'm a writer, I'm a wildlife tour guide, and I'm deeply involved in my communities in a number of ways. And I stood for the ORC because I care about the environment, because I want better buses for me, for every single person in Otago who relies on them, and for our environment that's counting on a mode shift around the region. And because I want to be involved in building better relationships with mana whenua, with council staff, and of course with all of our communities. And I'm really excited at the direction the ORC has the potential to go in, and I'm here to push us to go harder and faster on the things that we need to represent underserved communities and to stand up for the best interests of the land, water, and people of the great region of Otago. I'm really excited to work with all of you to make that happen.
Yes. Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, te mihi mahana kia koutou. Look, I'm really delighted to be here and still somewhat astonished to find myself here actually, but that's all good. And really looking forward to working with everyone in the room over the next 3 years to achieve some wonderful things for Otago. I like to think that we can really take some leadership in terms of looking after our environment and looking after our people. And as many of us have already said, we will do that by working together very well. So I think this is really exciting from my point of view, and I hope I can.
Kia ora. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, kia ora. For those who don't know, my name's Brian. I re-stood for council on the basis that we had some really important unfinished business. Top-down policy, as we all know, the regional policy statement, we've got work to do. The land and water regional plan, we've got work to do. We've already done some positive work. We need to finish it successfully. So top down and then bottom up, there's been some really exciting things going on in relation to our catchment communities and working with their communities. I was in a waka yesterday with Kate, and just to see it's important what we're doing, and we need to do a good job of it. I'm really excited about this term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Noon.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Always a humbling experience to be elected by the community, and we should never forget that. But welcome to every councillor around the table for this triennium. I think a couple of things that come to mind for me over the last 3 years and wanting to stay on focus and continue the momentum is around the focus on us. It's about this council, it's about our staff through our chief executive, working with our community and partners, our stakeholders, and continuing that momentum. I think that's really, really important. And we all bring different skills to the table, and it's up to us collectively as a team to take advantage of those skills and get the best for Otago we can.
Thank you. Councillor Meetham.
Yes, we've all read each other's profiles lately, so I won't go into too much detail about my qualifications, all that sort of thing. But I am a long-time resident of Dunedin. I've been actively involved in the community here for a long time, on the environmental front as well as community service. I'm really privileged to be here. Like Andrew, it's a huge responsibility to represent the people that voted us in. I take that very seriously. I found today rather difficult because I've to have to vote and sort of in the way we did. We've had some really, really good candidates standing up, and it's fallen the way it has. And I just hope that we can all carry on, work together as a team.
Thank you, Councillor Meetham. Councillor McCall.
I'm Lloyd. I think I just want to get back to what Andrew was saying. It's actually a real honour to be elected by your community to represent them in an area, particularly around the environment, because it's quite a topical area and it can be quite polarising at times. But at the end of the day, I sit here representing the community who desire to get environmental outcomes, and they just want to work together. They just want to be able to be recognised and work together to be able to achieve the environmental outcomes so that we get long-lasting outcomes. And I think that's really why I'm here. It's been an interesting morning, and as Tim says, the chips are where the chips are. So now I suppose a lot of reading for me, no doubt. But I think we can just all get together and get the right people in the right positions, and we can move forward. And as I say, I think the next 3 years is going to be defining for the Otago region as a whole environmentally and for the council. And we're really in a position that we can really be put on the mantelpiece, but really be looked up and respected. So thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. Councillor Malcolm.
It would be really good if the people new to the table and around the country actually read the Scouting report and realised what we took over 3 years ago and had to endure and had to change. I would hope they'd read no more of it in the ODT, which, in my view, and I don't care if they hear it or not, they're an incompetent paper that did not look at the reality behind what we're trying to achieve. We've achieved heaps. We have the opportunity now to go ahead and make this an incredible organisation. We have got incredible staff. We've got an incredible community of Otago, so we need to make sure that happens. But go read the history and find out, and you will see what we actually have achieved. So I think that is a very important part, because a lot has been achieved in exceptionally adverse conditions where the people that were making the change were often not supported. Thank you.
Councillor Laws.
I guess at the end of the day, the fine words that have been spoken around this table will mean not much. And I certainly won't judge you by what you say today.
This is an introduction.
No, but I will judge.
Yeah,
it's fine. Oh, here I am. I'm introducing myself, Gretchen, to the new councillors. It'll be the actions that we take around this table over the next 3 years that will be the proper judge of us as people. And although we talk about he tangata, unless we actually put the people that are going to be affected by our decisions first and foremost in our minds, then we will have failed again. I want to acknowledge Councillor Noon and your chairmanship over the last 2 years, sir. We had 2 departing councillors go and that we said goodbye to. But we didn't properly acknowledge your contribution over the last 2 years. And Andrew, can I say, you steadied a very unsteady ship, and you did a magnificent job. Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge Councillor Hope, who is not joining us around this table, but was one of the hardest working councillors over the last 6 years, if not the hardest workers. I think she's meetings she ever missed, and her contribution to the council over the last 6 years as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Laws. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you. Yes, feel very honoured to be back. You are only ever here for 3 years. Yeah, you should never expect that you will be back for another term. And so I wish to thank my those that have supported me to be here. We have an awful lot to do. We've come past 3 very troubled years, I believe, but actually it was good governance showing through and pushing back on deficiencies, I think, across our communities. There's some pet beefs for me. The biggest job we must complete is our land and water plan and get some certainty and some long-term outcomes in place with our land and water plan. Our communities are fed up. They have had a guts full with no certainty. And around this table now, us councillors will be watched incredibly closely to where we stand. We will be communicated with the community, and we will be expected to stand up in front of communities and explain to them why we have chosen a way we've chosen. And I think some have gotten away too easily in the past with that. There will be some challenging times ahead. Another very pet beef for me is to get Southland paying the same as what we pay for the Otago Rescue Helicopter now that it provides a service to Southland, and it's got bloody Southland written on the helicopter. So that one for me, rabbits, pests, and of course sorting out our water. That'll be me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Forbes.
Ora tātou, and it's good to be back. I'm really pleased about that. I was a bit nerve-wracking for a wee while. I want to say that I will always stand for the environment and environmental issues and environmental health. And as we refer to people all the time, and he tangata, I would remind you of the beginning of that whakatauki, which is Hutia Te Rito o Te Harakeke, which is about the health, the heart of the harakeke, the flax bush, and the heart of the environment, because we will need Koramiko sing, Korimaka sing if they don't have that harakeke. So that's my place. I want to see us form stronger and better relationships with our territorial authorities and our communities to achieve those sorts of outcomes. And I think we've made reasonable progress in the last 3 years, but geez, we need to learn how to work together better. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Just take this opportunity as well. Thank you, Councillor Laws, for noting the work of previous chair, councillor now, Andrew Noon. Thank you from me as well for the work that you've put in during that time. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of late nights. It was a lot of phone calls, and you did it very well. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone in Otago. Thank you to Kevin today as well for putting yourself forward into a fair and democratic process. It takes bravery, as others have said, to stand up and do that. And I really appreciate you. I really appreciate everything that you bring to the table, all of your skills. And I really appreciated the chance. I feel humbled to be here today and to be able to stand alongside you and be able to present ourselves and our vision. And I know that we're going to be able to work together really well, because I really, really respect you, Kevin, and your skills. Thanks, Lloyd, for putting your hand up too, and for joining our council and for being part of our leadership team. I really appreciate that. Thank Carmen as well for the work that she has done for the council and for her local community. Amazing work Carmen did right throughout communities, a lot of work that goes unseen there as well. And we'll miss Carmen as well around the table. Yeah, so we will get to do that as well. So anyway, at this point, we need to have our lunch and do that with our guests. if we could have our karakia, that would be amazing. Karakia, whakamutunga. Tōna mutu ngā mahi mo tēnei apa. Me mai ngā whara mātou, te whakamari mo ngā kōrero ki te whakamari mo ki ngā āhua ki ngā whakamari mo ki ngā pohona ki a mātou. I tēnei kaini. E haere atu tātou ki wahu, e noho rangi māria i a tātou, i tēnā tātou. Okay. If everyone would like to move through to the room next door, the lunch will be served in there. Thank you.